in today's video, we're in for such a treat. I'm here with my friend Megan, and how did we know each other?
I think it was homeschooling.
Yes, that's right, through homeschooling. Yes, you still organized 2 of those homeschool markets.
The market days, oh my goodness, they were good fun, but it was crazy. It was huge, way bigger than I expected, especially like by the second one. It was massive.
Sure, that's great. And so, and now you garden.
I love it.
And you were telling me how you're almost like completely off the grid.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
It's been quite the journey in the last year of just stepping back from the system and the tie-ins of that. And I call it my farm in Framesby because it is. It's like this little piece of land. I'm a farm girl and grew up on the farm, and so it is. It's just kind of in me, and I love it. I love hands in the dirt and just being out here. It's my space.
Yeah,
it's very
I know
good.
people kind of think we're a bit strange farming in our back gardens, but actually until before the Second World War, this was what everybody did. They even would have a pig or a cow or something in the backyard.
I'd love a horse.
I'd
do a horse. Save petrol.
Yeah, totally. Have a carriage as well, eh? Okay, cool. So I'm really excited to have a look at your little farm at the back here, your vegetable section of your farm. So let's get to it.
Awesome.
How did you get into vegetable gardening?
When my son was about a year old, I built pallet boxes and ordered seeds from Living Seeds and got started, because growing up on the farm I had the joy of going and pulling fresh veggies out the ground and picking off a tree and just really delighting in that. And I wanted my children one day to experience that same joy of harvesting and enjoying being outdoors and in the soil and digging and seeing you plant it and it grows kind of thing. So that's where it started, like 8-9 years ago. And slowly but surely it's grown, and from my 2 little pallet boxes that my blood, sweat and tears built, we moved here, and it started with that side of the veggie garden. Actually, it's had a few little sections within this garden, and then last year, post-lockdown and in August last year, I extended that section there into an L, and so it became this big L garden. And with the intention, I said to God, if I need to be self-sufficient at any stage, teach me how. And we did. We spent about a month researching, watching videos, different gardening styles, actually probably 2 months. It became our homeschooling in winter, was watching all of these gardening videos and the learning how-tos, so that by August we were ready to kind of start. This area was dead. It was dead soil, old grass. Grass didn't even grow here. So, and even from last year, I see an explosion of growth compared to even last year's growth. So definitely feeding the soil has helped tremendously in productivity. So.
And how do you go about feeding your soil?
Horse manure and compost. And I have 3 worm farms, and then every now and then I do the illegal, because you're not meant to just throw the worms in, but I just take the whole bucket and throw it in my compost every now and then and let them do their thing, and then I just refill with some of the worms from the other one and restart the bucket, and it seems to work. I've got loads of worms in the compost and loads of worms in the soil, and I watch the thrush out the kitchen window and the hardy-dars and I'm like, out, don't eat my worms. Go for the bad guys. And that's really helped, as well as the hay, which I've got on now, or the wood chips as well, and kind of just adding back the organisms and stuff to feed the soil, because otherwise it's just dry and dead and very hard.
You can see a huge difference between last
year
just a year.
So it's been quite amazing to see. Last year when we started, it was, the lay of the land is at this very slight angle, and I did a little swale and berm effect, thinking that would help with the runoff and that, but it didn't. It just kind of disappeared. And then this year we built up the beds, and it's made such a difference, because we added soil in again in August. It's the busy time, and we built the beds. We raised it so that it was more level, and then we added like loads of the compost and the manure and everything in. And I think that just, compared to last year, it's just thriving in that respect. So everything seems to be doing really well. I think it's pumpkins. They've taken over. And I've had to be quite ruthless in choosing which ones I leave and which ones I cull, because otherwise it would have just been a pumpkin bed. But I'm delighted because they were self-sown from the compost, and it's been so fun because I've never had success with them because of the mildew and that. And so I think growing it like they just came up when they were ready has given them a boost. So that's the delight of compost. You get all sorts of extras as well.
Tell me about your the sweet corn.
This one it's glass gem corn, and it's a little baby multicolored corn, and we've planted it. I think this is the 3rd year we've planted it, and this year I was like, I want it doubled, I want lots. And so it's great for making popcorn, and so you harvest it all at once and you do your popcorn with it, and so I love it. I was like, I want my cornfield, but my cat loves my cornfield as well. There's a patch that she's flattened, so cool. Yeah, I love sunflowers. It's something I always plant in the garden because they're just so bright and happy and fun. And I have 2 varieties, actually probably many varieties, but there's 2 that I'm always struck by the difference of them. That this one, it started off as a Nigerian giant sunflower, and it gets this massive head like this. And if you look, it just has the one flower at the top. Whereas this one, it has many all the way down, and it gets heaps of little baby sunflowers at each little join. And I'm always struck by the difference. And God's creativity, I see it all the time in the garden because everything is so different and so beautiful and so intricately and perfectly created that I'm like, I don't have that kind of creativity to think up all these different things. And I love it just looking at the sunflower, the differences within it, and each of them are so beautiful in their own right. And this guy and his huge head, and he grows tall, and that guy and he's like 20 little flowers. It's amazing just to see the difference of it. So yeah,
I see you got one that's got quite a few.
Yes.
Over here.
Yeah.
I have never seen that before.
And I don't know if it's like a hybridization that's just happened naturally, but since I've had them, it does it. Like it just has these loads of little flowers. And
so do these ones just pop up by themselves in the garden?
Generally also from the compost, because then I feed them to the birds. I still want to get chickens one day when I'm big.
Oh, yes.
And so the idea is that the sunflowers will then become food for the chickens. But in the meantime, then I just break them off and I give them to the birds. Or actually half the time they've eaten half of the sunflower before I even get to it. And then it goes in the compost. And these were also self-sown from the compost. So I'm finding that when you throw it in the compost and it's allowed to just grow when it's ready, it grows so much stronger and better versus planting it and trying to grow it. A lot of the garden is planned plantings, but like the sunflowers, the tomatoes, the nasturtiums, the pumpkins, they're self-sown and self-growing. So yeah, the duality, as I always say to you, it's like my personality that comes through, the ordered and organized, and then the laissez-faire, just grow and do what you want to kind of approach. And yeah, it's fun both sides. So
And what kind of tomatoes have you got growing here?
I don't actually know the variety. I think it's one that I bought in the shop and I liked them, and so I planted a few of them, and they're like, I call them baby Roma because they look like the Roma tomatoes, but they're baby tomatoes, and they're awesome. There's another one that's a little tiny round one around that side that also like came up on its own, and I haven't had great success with big tomatoes. The worms tend to get in, dig a hole and dig through and go out the other side and ruin the tomatoes. So I like the little guys for this. It works.
And what do you do if you have got a pest problem, pest pressure?
I squish them ruthlessly, or I attack them with scissors. The grasshoppers especially, my favorite. Like they get in here. I never knew we had so many grasshoppers in town until I started veggie gardening, and then I was like, what? And these huge stink bugs, like naturalists, I'm sorry, I want my veggies. Like I share, but when it becomes out of hand and I'm losing everything to the bugs, then it's like, no, you guys need to die now. That's why I've left the nasturtiums to grow wild, because they tend to attract the aphids. I have found that the aphids are more in here, and I don't mind squishing and damaging the leaf of the nasturtium versus squishing and damaging my lettuce or whatever else it would be on. So yeah, I use them as my sacrifice plants, and it's worked well up till now.
And I these onions that you have down here?
Yeah, these are the ones that my son loves to pick and eats the leaf just like that, and he walks past and it smells like supper being prepared. So it's good fun. It's funny how they just love coming and helping themselves in the garden, and that was the delight for doing it, was to do that. So
eggplant here.
Yes, yeah, those are new ones. I actually ordered some seedlings from Moorlands, and I was so pleased with their quality and the quantity that you get and the price that you get it at. Like, totally local gardeners, check out Moorlands. They have been so great. So those are 2 from this year that are planted in, I think, August, September, and they've done really well so far. This guy is an old one from last year, and I kind of killed it. They had aphids and ants on, and I sprayed it with a vinegar citrus mix, and it got a bit burned in the sun. So now I'm like, okay, just use water on the aphids next time. But I was so furious because the plant was riddled with it. So I was like, oh, I want to kill him. And but it seems to, like, there's new growth on it that's coming back to life. So I don't think I've killed the plant completely, but the 2 new ones are doing great. So yeah, I'm waiting for some nice fruit from those. That'll be good.
Okay, so then, and your cabbages, those are those drumheads?
You ask technical questions now. Yeah. Those were also Moorlands ones. So I tend to err on the side of planting close versus planting, the recommended spacing apart, because I'm like, you know what, I can always pull out or trim back or anything like that. And so that's why it looks really full, but it's I don't know what variety it is.
How big do your cabbage heads get normally?
This is the first lot I've done.
Okay.
Yeah, so these were also Moorlands ones, and it's the first one, so I'm waiting to see how it goes. Yeah, so I tried cauliflower and broccoli last year. It was a disaster because as they started to form their little heads, the maceville came and chowed them. And so by the time I realized what was happening, it was over. They'd already destroyed the plants. So I was like, oh, chop and drop and restart. So yeah, it's the duality of the delight and the disappointment. One thing that we loved growing and eating last year was bush beans, and they've been so successful. They are, I think, water friendly. I don't know. They really did well. And so we've had lots of fun growing them. I found that they didn't need much attention, and we love eating them. We pick them every day, so they've been great. I've actually extended the quantity to be along here. I had potatoes growing here, and they didn't love life too much. I think it was too dry here and too hot, so I'm trying the beans there. I think that's the fun about gardening, is it's the experimenting, the hit and miss, this works well here, this doesn't work well, let's try it somewhere else, and the give and take in it. So yeah, it's been a good learning experience. So here we've got, I think there were cabbages again. So I've planted cabbages in here. I've added lots of beans to take over the tomato trellis. That was a bit of a fail. And peas as well. I've planted a few peas there. And surprisingly, the peas do quite well still, because they're meant to be a winter fruiting plant, but they do really well here. I think by January we will have exhausted their tolerance for the heat. So, but I'm all about, okay, that's the guideline, let's try it anyways, because PE, we have quite a mild climate. So it's worth a try. If it fails, well, we know for next time. So.
And are these the peas which are in the pod?
Yes. Yeah. So my daughter likes them like this, when they're mange totes, or when they're like this, and then my son likes them when they're big and fat. So we kind of share them out. And then I always mark 1 or 2, or actually quite a few, with a pink string, and then they know, don't pick that one, that's the seed one. So I always save it with that, then I remember, don't eat that one, so otherwise you forget. And this is my sweet corn. So I've got a smaller patch of sweet corn as well, because we love corn. We don't enjoy the GMO thing, so growing my own corn has been a real treat. And they're smaller ones. I think they're called Bantam Gold or Golden Bantam, but they're sweet and delicious, and it really is. It's such a treat when they're fresh and going and stuff. Also a fight with the ants to get to them, but hopefully this year I'll have taken out enough ants to not struggle with them.
And how far apart do you plant yours?
Again, I plant everything too close because I want more. So I don't have a set standard. I kind of measure out with my hand and drill a hole and plop it in and space out and stuff. I do use the no dig method partly because I'm just probably too lazy to work with it, but then also I've seen the benefits of not disturbing the soil and the whole microbiome that's going on inside the soil, and allowing it just to grow and nurture and feeding it from the top, as well as growing the beans where you've had heavy feeders. So where you've had the heavy feeders of the corn and the potatoes and stuff, then you put in the beans and those things that then put nitrogen back into the soil and that. I also have dandelions. If my kids find dandelions, I tell them go blow it in the veggie garden, because those are, they're all giving back to the soil, and dandelions are great for medicinal purposes as well. So we eat the leaves as part of lettuce, salads, and so it's a cycle, and it's learning more about the cycle so that you're feeding what's feeding you. I call it the perennial side because it's things that aren't constantly dying back and needing to be replanted. So that side is more the seasonal replantings, whereas this side is the olive tree, my overgrown delight of lavender that I love it. I don't have the heart to cut it back because the bees love it. I think that's the fun of it. At the back there is a curry bush, which is at least 20 years old, and it has a distinct curry smell without the burn of curry, obviously, but it has the flavoring that it adds to the dish is that curry taste. There is a guava tree, which is more of a guava branch, but last year I was astounded how it was much smaller, and it was these measly little branches, and we had about 20 fruit off of it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this guy, he loves life here. So, and it's self-sown. I don't really know where it came from, how it got here. That's why it's sort of in the pathway, but I'm like, I tie him up every now and then and add new branches up. The guavadillas, I don't even know how many I have. There's so many along this fencing that we had a guavadilla years ago against that wall that had fencing and stuff, and it got yucky and a disease or something, so I cut it out, and I did the lazy thing of I chopped it down. I didn't dig the roots out, and within a month or two in this section there were like these little things popping up all over, and I was like, that looks like guavadilla leaves, it looks like a guavadilla. And it was, from the roots, it had sent out runners. And it was the first time, it was only when it was chopped down that it suddenly multiplied. I must have had about 20 plants. I transplanted maybe like 7 or 8, 9, 10, gave some away and sacrificed the rest because there just wasn't enough space for them all. And so they've been growing for about a year now. And come the next fruiting season, I reckon we're going to be like swimming in it. I can't wait because we love guavadillas. And so we've got the guavadillas that were ours, and then one granadilla that I'd bought from someone. So yeah, keen for the abundance of it. So I say it's my laissez-faire approach because it's kind of like an array of chaos. There's nasturtiums growing everywhere. There's a couple of tiger lilies, the Inca lilies coming up that were originally here when this was Granny's garden, and yeah, mint everywhere despite trying to take it out. I've left them to do their thing. I've planted calendula as well. There's marigolds interspersed everywhere. It's also where I'm trying to get my herbs established. Because it was that my hope for that side in the front there was to do herbs and that, but I found that the dog kept on going in there and messing things up. So I moved the strawberries out of there, and I've been moving the herbs out as well as we go along. So yeah, it's safer this side. Found our peaceful space.
We did indeed. We got a little hiding hole.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Your garden is absolutely beautiful, and I learned so much from you.
Oh, thank you.
And
I
to
love
think
it.
you've only been doing this for like, what is it, a year and a half?
Yeah, it's been great.
Amazing. It just shows you, you don't need to have years and years of experience to actually grow something successfully. And if you're doing, like, I'm a firm believer of the no-dig method.
Yes.
It's not difficult. It's
Yeah.
not difficult. There is not like, oh, your soil has to be like this
Yeah.
for this plant and like that for that plant. And
Yeah.
there you go. It's really encouraging to see your garden, and I think
Thanks.
you've done a fantastic job. It
Thank
looks
you.
absolutely
Oh,
beautiful.
yay. It's
So
been so
thank
fun.
you for your time.
Awesome. Yay.
And yeah, I'm very excited to see how it goes as the years
Yes.
progress. We'll
Yeah.
come visit you again.
That'd be fun. Yeah. For harvesting. We'll come and have a harvest season
Ooh,
one.
yes, indeed.
And then eat the popcorn.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Bridget.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Good.
Awesome.